there, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. This bulletin is coming to you live from the Joy 99.7 FM studios, Kokomlemle in Accra, a digital address GA0993341, also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, affiliates across the country including Kekeli FM in Ho, Radio Justice, Tamale and Gaskia FM, Bono East, also on ABN Radio in London and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The news is brought to you by UMB Bank, UMB Speed App, Digibank, Let's Go, SuperSem, Build Your Dream, and Teleso 4G, just a touch. And coming up,
they have evidence that includes audiovisual evidence of some of the engagements that these persons have had, the details of their plot, the kind of installations they intend to attack or take over.
As government prepares to put medical doctor alleged to be the mastermind behind an attempted coup plot and military officers before court, will hear from his lawyer who is describing the situation as a setup.
Some sack was put his generator with some guns. When the agencies went there, that they are going to search the premises, they went there and went straight to the generator to pick the sack. So who put the sack there?
We have more on this as we hear from eyewitnesses from Alajo on last Friday's operation that has left many residents in shock. Coalition of Civil Societies Against Political Vigilantism gives government a 7-day ultimatum to withdraw its white paper issued on the Justice Short Commission report.
We therefore give government a 1-week ultimatum to change its position on the report, accept the findings and recommendations of the report, come up with a roadmap for the thorough implementations of the recommendations, and to instill confidence in the security agencies and also into the public.
Also in this edition, residents in the Northeast region begin receiving treatment weeks after the outbreak of scabies.
Yes, we started.
Okay, in which village in particular?
We are in Gagre.
Okay, so how many communities are you think can cover today?
Today, the communities are far apart, so we are covering 2 communities today.
Okay.
We have details as health officials move to the affected areas for the exercise to begin. We have all that and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. Please stay for details. And in our very first story, lawyer for the medical doctor alleged to be the mastermind behind an attempted coup plot has described it as a setup, and they're also saying that efforts by government to demonstrate his client was intending to overthrow the Akufo-Addo administration. Kojoga Adawudu says Dr. Fred Powell, who heads the Citadel Hospital here in Alajo, is being treated unfairly. Last Friday, a security operation led to the arrest of Dr. Powell and 2 others and the retrieval of several arms, explosive devices and ammunition from locations in Accra and Bawaleshi near Dodoa. Some security analysts have downplayed the seriousness of the situation, but Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah insists government has evidence to back its claim as they prepare to put the suspects before court. He spoke on the Super Morning Show.
The government is informed by state security agencies, including Defense Intelligence under the Ghana Armed Forces, the Bureau of National Investigations and the CID, that they have conducted a successful operation, which has led to the arrest of some persons and the seizure of some arms, ammunition, and related items. And that this was occasioned by some surveillance they have conducted over the last 15 months, following a group of persons who have been, from the brief they give us, plotting to use unlawful force to seize the reins of power or to seize the reins of government, and literally to overthrow the government. They inform us that as part of their surveillance, they have evidence that includes audiovisual evidence of some of the engagements that these persons have had, the details of their plot, the kind of installations they intend to, attack or take over as part of this enterprise that they are informed in. And they are satisfied that it is not just a conversation passing by, but it is a credible plot that these persons were putting together. These prime suspects, and then elements in the military who they invited and co-opted into their plot. And let me just add that as I speak to you this morning, the updated brief I have is that some military persons have also been arrested, including at least 1 officer, and are being interrogated in connection with this enterprise. So my understanding from what the brief I saw on is that they will now proceed to complete their investigations or to tie up their investigations as they go ahead with these interrogations, and then arraign these persons before courts and adduce the evidence before the courts for the courts to make a determination of these matters.
Information Minister Kojo Oponkroma there, but Victor Kojoga Dawood, who is lawyer for Dr. Pammy, is however challenging government's claims. He says the matter is a big joke, adding his clients and others arrested have only been arrested for their criticism of government. According to him, there is no proof his clients were in possession of the ammunition.
I can tell you on authority, whilst I was there and the statement were being taken by him when I was present and the others who have been arrested, who are in the BNI custody as I speak now, there has been no exhibit shown that we have found ADC. There has been nothing that has been shown. My client and the others who have been arrested, yes, he's a doctor. In all this, I think that this is a setup. Some sack was put in his generator with some guns. When the agencies went there, that under the guise that they are going to search the premises, they went there and went straight to the generator to pick the sack. So who put the sack there? And I can tell you also that, yes, they went to his house, and when they went to his house, they did not find anything. So if he's suggesting that things has been found in the house, guns and others, I think that I haven't seen any evidence. Nothing has been shown that this is what we have found in your house. And I can tell you, some senior military officers have also been picked up because they have a relationship. It is true that there is a platform that my client has been very vociferous that the way the country is going with the politicians and others, I think they are not doing what is expected. And the youth should be sensitized and know that they need to take their destiny and rise and say, no, we will not allow the politicians to go the way they want to go. I think that is not what to say radicalize. If that is the way of mobilizing people for a coup, should it be on social media where people can be identified and they speak their mind?
Victor Adawudu is lawyer for Dr. Fred Powell, who's been arrested for attempting to overthrow government. But who is Dr. Powell? He's supposedly a medical doctor, but the Ghana Medical Association says he has no records of his membership as yet. Dr. Justice Yankson is General Secretary of the association.
Let me say this with a bit of caution, but our initial checks do not seem to confirm his membership on our register. Because yesterday was also a holiday, we haven't been able, this matter just broke basically over the weekend. Yesterday was a holiday. We haven't been able to close all the tabs. We need to have some consult with the Medical and Dental Council as well to establish his record as far as medical practice in Ghana is concerned. But on the association level, at this particular moment, our initial checks have not confirmed his membership. But we are still doing further checks, and then as and when we are in a better position to confirm or deny his membership of the association, we'll be in a better position to tell you.
And that's something we'll be checking on subsequently in other bulletins. Well, my colleague Komla Adum has just returned from Alajo, where residents remain in shock over last Friday's operation. He joins me in studio. Komla, what have residents been telling you about what they saw last Friday?
MFA, they say that on Friday morning, a number of vehicles pulled up with military police officials and other policemen proper and other national security officials, and then they stormed the Citadel Hospital. It took them, say, 2 to 3 hours to conduct the operation, after which they pulled a number of items in a sack, put them in a vehicle and went past. They say the situation has left them in fear because they didn't know that any such activities were going on in the hospital. We can listen to them.
Soldier for military police for doctor now for respecting patients no show on into one man also almost answer after reinforcements mobile soldier for military police for one man say almost 2 hours 3 hours so one man say daily sabe drugs, cocaine, bombs, and weapons. The idea is you need the clinic and as a hospital for it. ya dwen shada nko
abom ho ana say my surprised about the AC the last 3 days.
Surprise there
So what did they tell you about this particular hospital? I heard some of them earlier telling you about this hospital. Are residents allowed to go to that hospital? What exactly do they know about the hospital?
MFA, from my interaction with these residents, they say from the time they've been living around the area, they've not seen community folk go or attend hospital at this particular facility to seek medical care or anything. All they see is luxury vehicles pulling up and going into the premises and going out. So they imagine that the hospital is meant for quote big people only, but they, the community folk and the locals, have not been there ever to seek medical attention.
Okay, but you've been speaking to the assemblyman for the area also. He's been shedding more light on it. What did he say?
He says, just as the residents are, he's also shocked. He says Dr. McPalm was a good man. He was a professional. He says he and his family and some other officials of the assembly have sought medical care from the facility before, and so it comes to them as a surprise that he's been reported to be involved in such activities.
I went to the area to ascertain the facts on the ground. So those people who are selling things in front of the hospital, I interviewed them. So I told the people to be patient because the man we know is a doctor and he's a good man, also good related, sharing jokes in the area. He has a good a character which we all know in that area. He favors a lot of people also in the area. So we cannot say anything which we don't know. So we are patiently and waiting for outcome of the event.
You heard the assembly member for the Alaju electoral area, Ismail Hudu, headman there. Thank you very much, Komla. Komla will be following up and giving us more later on. But we are getting information suggesting that the suspects are being put before court today. Joseph Akablay is following up on that and joins us on the line with details. Joseph, what have you been able to pick up?
So, MFR, the information we have so far indicates that if the arraignment will happen today, as the lawyers are picking those signals, it will take place at the Kaneshie District Court. We understand that the charges may relate to issues of illegal possession of firearms, among other charges. And so we are currently stationed here at the Kaneshie District Court. The case has not been filed here yet. Neither of the suspects been brought. But the information we are picking is that if it will happen, it will take place here. Then again, we understand since they've been picked out, they've been kept at various BNI facilities where their lawyers have actually visited, trying to engage them and expecting that if the state intends to indeed charge them before the court, as they have, we are picking information to suggest, then that should be done immediately.
But you are the Kaneshie District Court ahead of this, but have we seen family members, residents or lawyers massing up there already?
No, in terms of the presence here, in fact, the court just about a few minutes ago went on recess. The judge is still in, and so unless there is a case that is brought to their attention, in terms of those who are present here, it's just a team of pressmen who have all pitched camp here in anticipation of the arrival of the individuals. I have not spotted any individuals who I could say that appear to be anticipating a big case, for which reason they have come over here at the Kaneshie District Court. That's
my colleague Joseph Akablay. He's our court correspondent. As soon as he picks up something, of course, you would also hear it. You're still listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Let's move on to some other stories now, because the Coalition of Civil Societies Against Political Vigilantism has handed government a 7-day ultimatum to withdraw its white paper issued on the Justice Short Commission report. The group says a rejection of key findings and recommendations could either embolden security operatives to assault citizens or urge citizens to take the law into their own hands. Government's white paper was met with criticisms from security analysts and the opposition NDC amidst concerns. Key recommendations, such as prosecution of an operative who assaulted an MP, were rejected. Chairman of the Coalition of Civil Societies Against Political Vigilantism, Mensa Thomason, says government got it wrong.
Government's decision to reject some of the recommendations is practically flawed, considering how much evidence already exists in the public domain. We have videos, we have tapes, and a lot of evidences are already in the public domain. And so people have a fair idea the extent of the violence, the extent of the damages and that occurred. And so we believe that this is dangerous and could be a recipe for disaster, considering government's posture. For example, government decision to reject the recommendation to prosecute the operative who assaulted a sitting member of parliament for Ningo Pram Pram Honorable Sam George, because there was some provocation, in itself is quite provocative, and to a large extent creates the impression of a tacit government approval for the assault and other forms of violence that happened at Ayawaso West Wogon. This could be described as government condoning and supporting violence. We are therefore calling on government to rescind its decision not to prosecute that operative.
You heard that the chairman of the Coalition of Civil Societies Against Political Vigilantism, Mensa Thomason. In a related development, the minority in Parliament has described government's white paper on the Milshot Commission report as shameful and disappointing. Speaking to Joy News, a minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, says the president only sought to protect his own.
The white paper issued by the president to the Ayawaso West Wagon violence is not only shameful and disappointing, but repugnant to natural justice, and a slap on the constitutional provision which requires the president to be candid and fair in the exercise of discretionary power. We are disappointed by the white paper seeking to exonerate one or two of his own.
Now, the minority is also questioning the commitment of President Akufo-Addo to the fight against party militias and their activities. Haruna Idrisu says they are considering all legal options to challenge the white paper because the president abused his discretionary powers.
It clearly demonstrates that the president has no moral authority to fight vigilantism. In our view, the government white paper puts to bed and to rest and a terminal death the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act. I do not see how effective and functional that legislation will be in our country. If it's unable to punish its own, we are considering other options, looking at the constitutional requirement which allows him to exercise discretionary manner in a manner which is not capricious.
You heard the minority leader Haruna Idrisu. Now let's head to the northeast region because some affected communities of the scabies outbreak have begun receiving treatment weeks after the outbreak. The disease, which was first reported at Dagbudibwari, has seen many, including a 10-year-old boy, on the verge of losing his penis. But about 16 communities can now heave a sigh of relief as health personnel in the region have begun administering drugs to these affected persons. Although we do not know when the treatment will be made available. We'll hear from the East Mamprusi Municipal Health Director, Mark Abugri. But let's speak to my colleague, Ilyasu Tanko, who's been on this beat for us. So, Ilyasu, you visited the areas. How widespread was this and how serious was the situation?
Yes, very serious. We have not been able to establish the attack rate because we keep on hearing people from several communities reporting this particular disease in their area. And so the health service already have said that some 16 communities so far has been affected. We are still getting new report even from the regional capital, Nalirgo, people reporting about red rashes on their skin. And it was very serious because we saw a number of people who were very restless for more than 2 months now since they were attacked by this particular disease. We also saw a young boy who, as we speak now, risks losing his penis because of this particular disease.
And how is this particular boy doing? Elias, I'm asking about this particular boy you just talked about. What's his condition? How is he doing now? It looks like Ilyasu is unable to hear us. Meanwhile, the East Mamprusi Municipal Health Director, Mark Abugri, earlier noted that his outfit was doing its best to control the situation.
We are educating them to disinfect their clothing before they wear them. Again, because if you are an infected person and you wash your clothing and you don't properly disinfect them, the parasites remain inside. So if you take them and wear again, you get infected again. So that's the education we're giving to them, asking them to boil their clothing before they wash them and dry them in the sun to ensure that all the germs, all the parasites are off.
So at the moment, do you feel like you have the situation under control, or is it out of hand?
Sure, it's not out of hand, it's under control. Nobody has died out of it, it doesn't kill.
You heard there, Abugri Mark Abugri. He's the East Mamprisi Municipal Health Director there, speaking to my colleague Inimado on the Joy News desk. Now, her father was HIV positive, but for fear of stigmatization, he kept his status a secret from everyone, including his wife, who later became infected. As a result, Aisha, not her real name, was born HIV positive, but was diagnosed when she turned 8. Aisha is now 15 years, but can no longer go to school because of the intense stigma. Her story was featured in the latest Joy News Hotline documentary titled My Status. Faustina Safo has the rest of the story.
Aisha's fate was decided at birth. Aisha was born HIV positive. At age 3, Aisha's father died. Her mother relocated to a different town, leaving her with her aunt in Kumasi.
No 8 years, no tired. When they were hospitals, had a queer hammer. When they were sorry, they could die almost 3 years. And son of Sophie catch me Anthony. Now put a yacht and say HIV in a hammer.
As a child, I used to fall sick all the time. My aunt took me to different hospitals, but they didn't seem to know what was wrong with me. My auntie took me to church. I slept there for almost 3 years. Then the pastor told us God revealed to him that I had HIV.
At the time, Aisha was too young to comprehend what she was going through, so her aunt kept it a secret until she became a teenager. Aisha is now living with her uncle here in Accra. She dropped out of school due to stigma.
Because of a motive, I arranged a much chance with one mammy did Kakra, and I'm going to come in BBA, but I'm a family.
The children used to insult me because of my status. They don't allow me to drink from their cup or eat from their plate. They have a special place for me, and it makes me feel bad, but I just overlook it. In
Ghana, the first case of HIV was recorded in 1986. Since then, the number of infected persons have risen steadily. In 2013, the United Nations introduced what it calls the 1990 Agenda in an attempt to get the epidemic under control. Ghana is struggling to achieve the target. Director of the Ghana AIDS Commission, Stephen Treme Etwahene, explains why.
So far, for the first 90, which relates to know your status, we have achieved 66.5%. For the second 90, we have achieved 45.5%.
To prevent future rise in infection, Mr. Treme says every Ghanaian has a role to play.
You can prevent HIV only when you know your status. And so it is important for everybody to test first.
You heard there Faustina Safo's report is excerpts of the latest Hotline documentary, My Status. The midday news will take a quick break. A recap of our top stories. Lawyers for medical doctor alleged to be the mastermind behind an attempted coup plot describes the situation as a setup. We're monitoring as they are heading for court. And still to come, we'll take you to the Oti region where pupils of the Bincha Basic Primary can now study in a classroom following a Joy News report highlighting lack of furniture, infrastructure, learning and teaching materials.
Receiving this classroom block will help us a lot to be able to reduce our classroom situation.
My name is Kwame Sefakai, and most of you know me as a media personality, but I am also a family man. The UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed App, saves me so much time by letting me do almost all of my banking transactions on my phone. The cardless withdrawal feature allows me to withdraw cash from any UMB ATM without an ATM card. I can also pay bills, transfer money, request for a loan, invest money, and so much more. So now, I can spend less time at the bank and more time with the ones I love. Bank anywhere and anytime with a UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed App, and get the time to do what you love most. Download the UMB Speed App from your Android, iOS, or Windows phone today. Call 0302-633-988 for more information. UMB Speed App, Digibank, let's go!
Kremasa, Ghana, so open correct medicine pa. And you make us super. Me a super medicine ankasa. Because our job no and better. They won't see how beautiful and high quality your work is. That be what them they use believe you. That be why me too. It be only super cement I they use. Cement mu cement. Cement papa. Inti me cries in from because it's super. Because me the super cement I
Super Cement is designed to ensure that your buildings stand strong for generations. Build with Super Cement. Build your dream. Build.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. It's time now for sports, and as the race thickens for the GFA presidency, my colleague Benedict Owusu is at the campaign launch of one of the contenders, Keto Kriku, and he joins us on the line with details. Benedict, what can you report?
Yes, MFR. So, Keto Kuku, as you rightly mentioned, is one of the aspirants for the GFA presidential, elections, and he's talking about what he will do when he gets the nod to become the president of the FA. And basically, he's been taking us through his manifesto, which he has titled "Igniting Passion, Creating World for All." And he actually started by giving a brief history of how we all got here with the analysis and everything that happened with normalization committee and where we are, gradually getting to the end of normalization and where we have to get a leader of the Football Association. He also talked about how he prepared himself for this day at age 17, talked about what he did, then his educational background, as well as what he's been able to do in football, and the principles that he's going to work with if he gets the nod as the GFA president. One, he says he will be big on transparency, also will be big on accountability, as well as proper audit.
You heard there my colleague Benedict Owusu with the latest from the world of sports. Now, pupils in Bincha Basic Primary in the OT region can now study in a classroom thanks to a Joy News report which highlighted lack of furniture, infrastructure and learning and teaching materials for the school. And the pupils had to go home whenever it rained or the heat of the sun penetrated the structures housing them. This adversely affected academic work, obviously. My colleague Joseph Opoku-Gapo in 2016 put together this report. Here are excerpts.
Bincha is one of the most deprived communities in the Volta region. For residents here, they cannot adequately educate their children unless support comes from government and non-governmental organizations.
Honestly, we have a lot of challenges here. The school is lack of structure. The school is not having a structure. And then the school too is not having teachers. We are lacking a lot of teachers. I'm the only government teacher that has been transferred to this place.
Well, this is a school that was established back in 2008 by the community itself as a result of the increasing need to get the school children here educated. The school originally has a population of more than 380 pupils, but as a result of the poor nature of the infrastructure here, less than 100 of them show up for class on a daily basis.
Excerpts of that 2016 documentary put together by my colleague Joseph Opoku-Gapo titled Jungle Poor. But there's good news. A 3-unit classroom block furnished with 20 mono-dual desks has been handed over to the school by the Elver Association in Georgia, USA. Benjamin Inchuche is a member of the association.
Our president, as dynamic as he is, found the plight of these people online because of a report that was made or done by Joseph Opoku-Gapo. So he came here himself to assess the situation, and we decided to come to the aid of this community. Even though our mission is to help our Ewe communities in Ghana, Togo and Benin, this is the first of a kind where we went outside the Ewe community to help, because the plight of these children were so touching that we decided to come to their aid.
We are grateful for your support all the time, also for the support at Mango TDK. Now let's head to the Ashanti region, because sanitation took center stage as preliminaries for the second edition of Love FM High School debate got off to a flying start in Kumasi on Monday. Kumasi High School emerged tops after 2 grueling contests to book a place in the last 16. They beat Bekwai STA SHS and Asaribediakon SHS to pick one of the 8 slots to join 8 seeded schools for the main contest. Love FM's Kwesi Debra has more.
Debutants Pekwai SDA were paired with one of last year's Trojans, Mantie of Kumasi High School. They were tasked to make gains from the topic, empowering sanitation inspectors a solution to Ghana's sanitation challenges. Principal Speaker for Bekwai SDA, Kingsley Kofise, says lack of incentives hamper their ability to go to remote places and deal with sanitary offenders.
when sanitary inspectors are given the enough funds, they are going to educate the citizens on the need for sanitation. When military men are told to assist these people, they are going to go on and on and on to forest, even curb land pollution.
Kumasi High lead speaker Nana Kwesi Abua, citing the Japanese example, believes keeping the environment clean is the responsibility of all, powered by education. He argues enforcing laws is the way to go.
When it sees fear, it forces itself to overpower it or to overcome it. This is the case where you are trying to create sanitary inspectors and to enforce them that they should rather control people and tell them that they should rather clean up the environment. You know, human nature. Human nature can really become changed. Oh, yes.
And the debate is on. But what are people talking about on social media, Mapitso?
MFA, people are talking about the alleged coup on social media. And Richard Humphrey says, oh, what an information minister we have, always trying to hard to cover this government. And Ed Frederick Carey says, the most difficult position in politics is being an information minister. At Mashu says, we're sick and tired of your divisionary tactics. One can't run away from his own shadow. At Say Galaxy says, how can these kitchen utensils cause a coup in Ghana? Prosper Daddy says, we shouldn't also forget that a grenade was once concealed in a bouquet of flowers, which was nearly used to overthrow Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
And it looks like there's a challenge on social media. Ghanaians, we play too much. And that's it for the midday news here on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am MFA Powell. Enjoy the rest of your week.
So everyone says